Hi everyone. Continuing with my review, next is presentation 11, Danny's A Spiritual Song. This one is unique in a number of different ways, and although it's a little embarrassing for me, it's very important to witness how Danny is fully aware of what's happening around him and how he even knows that my actions will be heard in the video as well. It starts with the forward part where Linda says, "I'm leaving," and on the way out the door, I stop at the washroom and have a pee, leaving the bathroom door partially open. This is what Danny says. "Gosh," he chuckles, and then he says, "Will you stop that? The mic carried your washroom here. Trust me, boss, we can change the world. But here is not a good time for a class to hear you tinkling."
Ryan had to go. Just seeing if Danny wants to still talk.
So there's a little prophecy in that last part, as Danny believes in the future that these videos will be presented in a classroom environment. In the next part, he shows foresight of how people might think I did it purposely and how they may find humor in it. He also recommends some corrective action so it doesn't happen again, and says, "They might think your pee was made purposely. They are still laughing and think you should laugh here too. It gives them the idea you're not seriously, and possibly you're impolite to make it ever during this work. We can sure make a goal to back off in front of my videos so people can't hear what we do." I have to tell you that Danny was the king of video etiquette, and I learned a lot from him during the short time he was with us. In the next part, he talks about how he is allowed to work on things that help him spiritually grow as well. He also says that others should decide how to change certain things in their life that require changing for spiritual growth. And this is what he says. "So here, what we will do has no agreeable conditions, but we're allowed to work on anything in this home where at some point release is very awkward. I suggest here what you withdraw from life will let you ultimately declare a time to resolve every one of these things that might come up." In the next part, he continues on about making changes and how our forum will give visionaries freedom to do that, and says, "What is it when you have to enforce a character improvement right here? We should pray and at least record now a terrific psalm if he messed up. And by the way, we think this forum will get to offer freedom following parts that affect everyone." Following that, he tells you not to believe in theories that try and silence the truth. And interestingly enough, he talks about an antidote that we'll need and depend on in the future, and says, "Don't believe, unfortunately, these theories that silence the things you can know while seeking a spiritual song. You won't hear that song if you question that you have the supreme antidote. You will depend on it when life will attain a force of miracles. Then he talks about how the spiritual song will become natural in us and how it is a very basic part of living. And he says, we need to see the spirit is in your spiritual song that surely will become natural, for our God is showing passion for the very basics of living. In the next part, Danny uses the beginning of this video as a lesson in telling you there is nothing we will hide. And he says, if there is any time you'd like to live, it's soon to emerge. And I'm sorry that you needed to wait for excellence. Still, the only part that we've been telling is there isn't anything we will hide. In the next part, he talks about how God does communicate with us and offer his divine love, and says, God really can converse in many ways, and he'll offer you divine love as you work with him, and you will see a prophecy coming. So now let's move on to the reverse of this one. In the first part, Linda speaks at the end of the forward part, and in reverse she says, is the answer imagination? Then Danny says, the angels in heaven are here. Do you know you have a mission from the quantum? With devotion, our evidence shall support this event. Just keep in mind that in these reviews, I cut some of the dead space out and even some of the content that is not that important. So if you want to hear the original file as it was recorded, you can in the presentations. In the next part, he says, it's obviously a mission that is trying to save the earth. The future has the right to involve you in a plan. Following that, he talks about the plan and says, in the summer, if you have listened, Ryan shared all of this plan. As of now, we must see the dream. We are feeling strength in using powerful messages we have sent for him. Do you need to review what we saw in him was a soldier of truth and how the angels selected him? In the next part, I believe he's speaking of the year prior to me meeting Linda and how I was going through some hard times in my life. And he says, "Now there's nothing like seeing our vision of a special man's miracle. You will have to listen of how that year was very questionable. Passion often can stall life, challenging you with unusual memories." Yes, I agree with the angels that my memories of what happened when I split up with my wife and later met Linda, and when the group I was working with went their own way as well. Half the time I did not know then whether to blame myself or the group for leaving, and there was a lot of confusion at the time. Since then, I've moved on to a different life and have a 10.5-year-old daughter with Linda, and I'm experiencing more spiritual growth all the time. In the next part, he talks about how even though I may not be evolving in everything, the reason may be that I needed real love in my life at the time, and what is happening now is a real challenge for any person. And he says, "It is something the angels will hope you will see when it's not real love. Though we might say he's not evolving in all things, we will say it challenges divine sanity for every person." One of the things that I did question in the past with visionaries was whether or not they were here for the animal intelligence aspect of this event, or if they really believed that the angels were communicating through the budgies. In the next part, Danny tries to answer that question. How do you really extend kindness and show him properly that you shall have real passion? Shall we have a mission while we reverse some fear? You should have use of emotions that tell you how you wish to proceed here. In the next part, he moves on answering the previous questions for the new visionaries and says, "Show your issues are passing, closing in on the area of love and light. There's such hope if you understand Ryan's videos. The people surrounding you will help define that love when this evolves." The next part was a prophecy that is happening now. I had no idea where this was heading at the time, but after transcribing all these songs in reverse that I've done so far, I know exactly what they are saying. He says, "Truth already lives in time. View something for a life that truly promises there's a gate to heaven. In time, you'll begin to feel that angels are playing all the music we have written for good." In the final part, Danny talks about how the angels will give you God's answers, and if you fear God, that fear will be gone when our work is finished. Then Danny takes a bow and says, "Fearlessly and passionately will give you God's answers, for his angels are always near you. If one has fear of God, it's sad. It's gone when the starry night finishes our work in here."
Oh, what's the snowy night Venice? Look, down there.
Now I'm going to continue with presentation 12, Danny's A Summer Prophecy. I think I may have to cut quite a bit of this one out because it is starting to get too long and there are parts of it that are more important than others. In this one he starts off talking about the video where I showed Linda and Kayla talked a bit as well. And he says, okay, he published so far this video about his family. Ryan, you should work on a closer view and practice it. You have even this little girl who has a spiritual home. Doing rare work you love, you're a great pioneer to our world. Okay, go ahead. Next he says, we need a little more to be like Ryan, who have experienced God. How they explore their love will tell you how we know them. In the next part, he tells me that I'm able to show my first following and what we'll be able to look forward to in the future. And he says, you're able to show your first following. They will get to walk in every garden we have walked. What shall we give it the man on earth that doesn't fly? We need to work more and show a form that helps him experience everything good. In the next part, he talks about what the angels will do for those men or women who follow this, and says, we'll carry him a religion that will give him some help wherever it's possible. They have made their lives for God. During the experience, the progress you invest is swift. In the next part, he talks about how there'll be more following this in the summer, and by next February, someone will be helping me. And he says, remember, we live by respect. Ryan will commit and begin to work on many things here, and it will be big by the summer. By next February, with video, Ryan gets help here with someone. He is actually a minister who encourages him in a special title heaven has bestowed on him. I don't know how many know this, but about 10 years ago, I was indoctrinated by the angels, and they ordained me as a minister. So perhaps that is what he is talking about in that last part. In the next part, Danny predicts his own ascension and talks about a friend coming from afar, and says, "I'll be going somewhere with God. We're going up really far. We cannot forget a friend is coming from afar to enjoy and believe in Ryan. In addition, we're going to reveal a future you like with him." Next, he talks about that meeting. They will accept your reasoning if you show you'll approach it with the angels up in heaven. God chose to help them find this light. Ryan, we'll insist you are the person for a religious union that really believes in prophecy. He continues with, "They'll finally speak in the kitchen and swear that they like what you're doing. We were seeking these people to give some light on what's come here. You will make a house of God for expressing your practical mission." He continues with the prophecy saying, "Everything that is here we bring, with a need to resolve a future religion. It will let you link to a kind of life they offer. There's a group we love exploring your whole culture." The prophecy continues, and he says, "Before your dinner with God, we know there were bad times. This little budgie died and gave their people a mission and spiritual goal. This one prophecy will move forward when they catch on. The many reporters that they welcome get to be there." Next he says, "In heaven we shall declare this a miracle. In our view, Ryan's a saint. In his spirit, God will right any wrongs through what we will get by angels who look at your group posts. God will provide everything you're struggling with." In the final part of this reversal, he says, "You will usually have adventures in history as a prophet. Even in science, you'll hear of Ryan as a powerful man. Here we have defined Ryan's miracle." So that's it for Danny's summer prophecy. It seems that God and the angels have a lot of confidence in me, even when they know I still have a lot of work to do on myself spiritually. I pray regularly that I don't let them down, and when I start to lose faith, I look back at all the prophecies that they have given me so far that have come to fruition, and know that it's just a matter of time before this one does too.
That completes this presentation. To hear more, please subscribe to our YouTube channel or visit our website at theangelscrolls.com.